interesting ethnic conversations to the community alongside excellent music and chats about all sorts of events in the Teesside area. This is a variant of Drive Time Community Connections going out over the radio as well as online in video format, so stay tuned for that. I'm Gavin Winship, interviewer and journalist for CVFM. With me today are representatives of Borderlands, a very interesting art project in the area. Shahda Khan is the director of Borderlands. I will just bring her now onto the main screen. Shahda Khan, how are we doing this morning?
I'm very well, thank you. I hope you and the listeners of Community Voice FM are equally well today.
We certainly are. Thank you very much, Shahda Khan. We are also joined by Naaila Shabir. Hello, Naaila.
Hi. Hello. Good morning.
And we are joined by David Oladokun, if I've got that surname correct. My apologies.
That's correct. Good morning. Nice to meet you.
We are speaking with representatives, as noted, of Borderlands. That's right, Borderlands, an art project in the area connected and affiliated with MIMA and the University of Teesside. Shahda Khan is the director, Naaila is the community engagement coordinator, and David Oladokun is the communications and digital media lead. Tell us all about Borderlands then, Shahda, and the work it does for communities in the Teesside area.
Right, Borderlands is one of the Arts Council England's Creative People and Places programmes. We're one of 39 similar programmes across the country, and we cover Middlesbrough and Redcar and Cleveland. We are currently hosted by Teesside University and MIMA with an independent consortium, which is made up of Middlesbrough Football Foundation, North Star Housing, You've Got This, which is a Sports England funded programme, Tees Valley Nature Partnership, and Tees Valley Educational Academies Trust. Our primary purpose is to connect with communities of all backgrounds across Middlesbrough and Redcar and Cleveland and support them to become more creative and engage in art and culture in whichever way they wish to. It's not just about getting involved in what is already happening, but it's also in regard to them co-producing and co-designing what happens in the future. We have a number of key themes, one being around the environment, which I'm sure you and your listeners will agree is one of the key issues of our time. And the second is around heritage and place. People who currently live and work in Middlesbrough and Redcar are really passionate about this place. And what we wanted to do is give people an opportunity not only to amplify people's voices and experiences, but to shout about how good things are here in terms of the people and the place. And that isn't to take away from any of the challenges that people and our places are experiencing, but we want to try and use creativity in a positive way.
I think that's... Oh, sorry.
I was just going to ask the team if I'd missed anything.
Well, I mean, that largely covers the first two questions I was going to ask. I think I can probably think of a few more things to emphasize, but on the whole, that is absolutely fantastic. What sort of art projects specifically does Borderlands support? And can you tell us more about the general importance and impact of this sort of art, whatever form it may take, on the ethnic and marginalized people in the Teesside area?
I think in some ways we're trying not to use the term art and culture, because as soon as you mention art, people think of a particular form of art. And for us, it's very much about the creativity and cultures of our communities across the board, whether it's kind of those from the South Asian community, Afro-Caribbean community, the Irish. You've been in Middlesbrough for a few months now, and you'll know Middlesbrough in particular, as well as Redcar, but more so Middlesbrough, is a place which is built on migration. Everybody that lives here or works has come from somewhere else. And with that come individual stories, which we want to try and kind of capture and share, but in a way that people feel comfortable. It's very much Creative People and Places is exactly what it says on the tin. It's kind of working and supporting our local people to become creative in a way that perhaps they've not had the opportunity. And that is definitely the case in terms of our marginalized communities who might not necessarily have had the access that some of us take for granted.
I didn't know it earlier on while you were saying this. Did you say that I've been living in Middlesbrough for a couple of months now?
Sorry, I thought you'd been at CVFM for a couple of months.
Oh,
but you might have been here longer.
I've been living in the Teesside area almost my entire life, actually, but it's good to know that, of course. People tell me I don't sound like from Teesside, so it tends to be a natural assumption a lot of people have. If I had a penny for every time somebody said I'm from London, I would be a rich man by now. But that covers the first two questions excellently well. Third question is a very relevant one. Shahda Khan, how did you come to be involved then in Borderlands and in these sort of art projects in general, and indeed come to be the director of Borderlands?
Some of your listeners will know me from my previous life at Middlesbrough Council, but also in my various volunteering roles that I've had, not only in Middlesbrough, but across Teesside and the Northeast and some nationally. I think I'm somebody who has always been passionate about communities, around equity and social justice. And I came into the role of Borderlands during the pandemic. Some strange reason I thought it would be a good idea to change roles in the middle of a global pandemic. Yeah, I think for me, for Borderlands, it was just had so much potential in telling people stories in different ways. I'd like perhaps to ask the team what they think and what their role was, rather than just me talking.
Going to be my next question, actually, which is to ask Naaila, and David about how they came to be involved in the organisation. And let's start with Naaila first. How did you get involved, Naaila?
Hi. So I've been doing a lot of community work within the Middlesbrough for quite a long time now, just doing various projects and activities with my previous role, and found it really, really rewarding. Loved working with people, loved working, making things more accessible for people. And when I seen the role as the engagement coordinator for Borderlands, Creative People and Places, because I love doing art and creativity in my own spare time. It's something that kind of peace, I find it as a form of mindfulness and to kind of help other people to get more engaged, who don't have the opportunity. Lives are so busy now, we're so busy, but then to bring people back to art and creativity and culture and celebrating that, I think is so rewarding to see. So when I seen the position, I applied. I'd been off work for a year and a half because I had my baby then, and thank you. And she's 2.5 now, but having been off work and not having that community engagement side, and for a half, I was like, who am I? What's my identity? I need to get back out there and I need to be doing more stuff. But as rewarding as it is being a mum, I think kind of, and I absolutely love it. Just kind of having that, because I've always done community work, getting back out there and speaking to communities was something that I wanted to do. So I was so happy to bring the engagement side and the creativity side together in this role, and hope we can do that justice. And I think we are doing all right so far.
I hope so. I mean, that sounds absolutely superb. And David, how did you come to be involved in Borderlands, and what exactly is your job here? What is your passion as far as all of this, the events of Borderlands? Sorry, what did you say the subtitle was, Shahda?
Borderlands Creative People and Places.
Exactly, Creative People and Places. David, in your own words.
Yeah, well, I feel like, apparently I'm the newest on the team, but it's been very, very interesting and satisfying working for an organization that cares about people, that wants to genuinely work with communities and increase community engagement, facilitates cultural activities and art in these communities. So I find it very passionate working for organizations that are working for people. So while I saw the opportunity to join the team, I was very, very elated when I was given the opportunity to join this role. So my background is basically in communications and social media. So I'm very passionate about telling the stories of people in the right way via digital platforms or even traditional platforms. So working in an organization like this is quite rewarding. I mean, because you get to work with people from all races, work with people from all kinds of history or from different walks of life generally. So this is a very interesting role. It's been about 3 months, and I'm very glad to be here and to support our communities that we work with. It's a very satisfying role, if you ask me, for the past few months I've been here.
Oh, well, that sounds absolutely super, David. And, while I've been listening to all of this, a very simple and straightforward question has occurred to me. I'll start with yourself, Shahda. what is your personal favorite form of art, both to create and to consume yourself, and using art again in that broad sense rather than anything narrow or specific? Painting, sculpture, dance, music. What does it mean to you, and especially from the cultural background?
I think I'm very much, you can't see what I can see. I'm surrounded by books. I love reading. And from a very, very young age, I've been always absorbed by stories of people and places. And as you grow up, you kind of see what you were taught in history in school was rather different to reality. And I always find reading as well as music kind of an excellent way of sharing stories and getting into that kind of sense of place. I think, and poetry as well.
Poetry as well?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. You want to ask, what is your favorite poem?
I have a number that right now my mind has gone totally blank.
No pressure.
That's always the case.
Free to cut in, and we'll include that one into the thing. Naaila, it was what you were saying earlier on that made me think about this very question as well. So what is your favorite form of art to create as well as to view or partake in or consume?
Favorite form of art? I think drawing, and drawing and painting basically. I think it allows you to just get really, really immersed with it. Your imagination, be completely creative in one sense. I'm in landscape art, so bringing nature into it as well, because that just really, like, I love to go exploring new places and then kind of painting them. I haven't done it in a very long time because I just haven't got the time to do so, but it was something that I used to love doing art, and nature and the environment, that's really important to me. So bringing creativity and showcasing it through art, that's what I like to do. That's my favorite form.
Illustration, wonderful. And David, what is your favorite form of art, both to create as well as to consume?
Well, I feel like I'm more into digital forms of art. I mean, from like graphic design, things like that fascinate me a lot. Talking about video as well. I'm more into the digital aspect of art. I think that's what I like. That's what I like more.
Interesting. I mean, I am actually a digital graphic designer myself, actually. I do logos and various sorts of things for CVFM. I didn't do the one that's in the top corner of this video, just above my head right now.
It looks nice anyway.
I have a few things with it as well on the past time. Maybe I'll show my poster at some point for my own show. But that is my improvised question of this particular interview. Moving on to what I think is the centerpiece. I'll just put this on the center screen for us all. 1 month before now, roundabout-ish, you found yourself and your lovely organisation and very kindly invited myself as part of a community group to attend a showing of an historic play, Silence at the Tower Theatre, in London. Actually, we made a wonderful whirlwind day trip, 4.5 hours in and 4.5 hours back. And in my capacity as a journalist and as an interviewer for CVFM and as a producer in general, I wrote an impressionistic review of the play and the entire experience of the day's travel, which was uploaded to the our Mixcloud. It has been taken down. Certain errors did creep into the piece, but we'll be correcting them in due time, of course, and it will be back online before you know it. Now that we have your lovely company with us, we would be delighted to hear your thoughts and your take on silence and its impactful role in the South Asian British community, Pakistanis, Hindus, and British alike.
I'll start, and then Naaila, if you want to add anything. From a Borderlands perspective, we think it was too good an opportunity to miss when we heard about Silence, a play which has been written by the playwright Kavita, who's, oh my goodness, what her name? Yeah. But it had submissions from a number of individual playwrights, including Ishidin, who is one of our local writers, an award-winning playwright. And when we found out about it, I thought, oh, right. It's also the 75th anniversary of partition. And we thought with that combination, it would be something that would be attractive for members of our South Asian community in particular, but also wider communities to go along to. Not least because there isn't historically a huge take-up by members of our community to go to things like this, and definitely not when it's all the way down in London. And with that local kind of connection, we thought it would be a good way in. And we wanted to try and get a good representation or reflection of Indian Sikhs, Indian Hindus, Pakistani Muslims, Bangladeshis, as well as Indigenous white British community, who were also obviously part of the entire process of partition. And I think you will agree, the play really reflected that well. And despite knowing some of the history, I was still surprised about how emotive the play was. And it was, they only had a number of limited kind of characters, but it really captured what was one of the, well, I think it was the biggest mass exodus of people, in history. And the trauma that people are still living with just really shone through the piece. It was an amazing opportunity.
It was absolutely astounding, and especially since, as you noted, there was only 8 actors in the place.
Yeah,
I remember reading the script billing beforehand, and it said 10. Only 8 came on stage, so 10 itself was a small number, and then 2 of them weren't involved really. So with just 8 people, they managed to relate so many powerful stories. I remember Idris asked me for my take on it all, and I said that, well, I was expecting some heavy content. That was a bombardment. It was tremendous, actually, very emotional indeed. Naaila, what are your thoughts then on Tara? Silence at the Tara Theatre, rather. Oh, I'm terribly sorry, Naaila, and your audio seems to have cut out at the minute. Let's have a look, you see.
Sorry, that's because I was on mute.
That's right. There we go.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't able to go. I really wanted to go, but something came up last minute, so I couldn't go. So I was absolutely gutted. Because hearing loads of stories, I've been brought up by my grandmother, from the age of 11, and hearing loads of stories, between her and the relatives, and I really wanted to go and kind of experience hearing it from other people as well. So unfortunately I couldn't go, but it sounded amazing. The feedback from Shahda when she came back and told us, and it's even, I think it's even more interesting that one of the writers was from the northeast, so that was really good. But it was just unfortunate I couldn't make it for that weekend.
I mean, I was informed that originally we were going to be taking a small minibus down to the experience, and that there was about 18 people involved. By the time Idris kindly extended the invitation, which came from Shahda indirectly, dropped down to 8 the night before. It was quite tight in its timing. It was an intense journey there and back again, it really must be said, but I was very privileged to attend it. It really was superb, absolutely. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this, Shahda?
Yeah, sorry. What I should have mentioned, within 5 minutes of the play starting, one of the characters made reference to Middlesbrough and Dorman Long. And many of your viewers will be aware of the steelworks and the importance of places like Dorman Long. And I wrongly assumed that line was written by Ishi, who's from Middlesbrough. Apparently it wasn't. And it was written by one of the other contributors whose father had actually been kind of moved to Middlesbrough, and that was his actual experience. And it was, again, that connection. As soon as you walk in, I mean, obviously it wouldn't have made sense to the wider audience, but to the people from South Tees, it definitely hit a nerve, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, it just shows that even though we live in such a big world, all these things really do come together. It really is a connected experience. And I think that's, again, exactly like you say, that's why it was so important for our little party to shuttle down there and attend, because people often, I mean, talking about the Teesside area briefly as a whole, going on a little bit of a tangent, I think that people do underestimate Teesside. It's a little bit out of the way, but it's got a lot of importance. Our Feeders Ain't Pet is basically about Teesside for the most part, the transport bridge and so on and so forth. And the Asian community, the Black community, the minority community, they're all a part of it. Here at CVFM, we're very proud to talk about that. I'm sure that there are many wonderful events coming up on Borderlands schedule, thanks to what Borderlands is going to do. Can you tell us all about what the community can expect in the next couple of weeks or months?
I'll hand you over to Naaila to speak about a couple of the current projects as well as a few that we have coming up, and then I'll chip in afterwards. Naaila, over to you.
Yep, thank you. I was trying to list a few, and I was thinking, where do I start? So what I think a lot of the projects that we've done and we're hoping to do is always we're trying to look at a bottom-up approach. So always trying to listen to the community to find out what people want to see and then help facilitate that to happen. We don't want to be one of them organizations who come in with a preconceived idea and be like, right, we've got this, and like, let's join what we've got. But it's more about working with the existing assets in the community, existing events, existing festivals, existing kind of creative the aspect of in the community to bring it all together. And a lot of people, I think, don't know about events or feel like they can't get involved. There's so many museums and art galleries and festivals and projects that are taking place, but we always have a look at from the angle of like, how accessible are they, or can do people feel like they belong? And we want to try and move away from that. So having conversations within communities with people and residents themselves, you kind of hear a lot more. Just this morning I was actually I'll get onto that afterwards after I've explained a bit about the projects. So currently we're working part of the Nightfall Festival, which is a festival led by Stellar Projects that takes place in December from the 1st till the 4th at Stewart's Park. I went to it last year for the first time, and it was an amazing experience. So Stellar Projects got in touch with us and asked if we can support a community element of it this year. So getting local people more involved in working with an artist to work towards one of the installations at the festival. And when we put that post out a few months ago for people to sign up and express interest if they wanted to take part, we honestly had an overwhelming response of community groups who wanted to take part, which was brilliant. But unfortunately, because of the artist availability and obviously time-wise, we were only able to run 6 sessions. So we got to pick 6 groups, which is a really hard choice. Me and Shahda had to sit there and go through all of these entries and kind of turn some people away or merge some groups. And but the workshops have now started with the artist, and we are working on some fantastic stuff. I think if you look on our social media, you can see some of the snapshots of or snippets, should I say, of the amazing work that's happening. So these will then be produced into an installation that will be at the festival. So listening to some of the community groups and the voices of the groups that we've been working with on this project, what's really interesting to see, because what we're also doing is every participant who's part of this project gets a free ticket to the festival as well. So it's not just about creating content for the festival, it's about attending it as well. And then as groups, like for the groups, we're given the free tickets to attend. But I was having a conversation with someone this just in one of the workshops, and she said, I've never heard of the festival, so it's really interesting hearing about it from you. And even if I did know about it, I don't think I would be comfortable going by myself. It's not somewhere I feel like I belong. But now listening to you and being part of the workshops, like, I want to go, and I feel like I can go with being proud of myself that I've contributed something towards the festival. And like hearing stuff like that, it just makes it really worthwhile doing what we're doing. Because the whole point of Borderlands Creative People and Places is making stuff like this more accessible to people who don't have the opportunity. So it has been hard to kind of get in communities and kind of build that trust, because it is about building trust. You can't go in and I've not worked with some of these, especially across Redcar and Cleveland. I've not worked in a lot of these communities. So first is going in, introducing yourself and building a bit of a rapport with them. And then kind of getting that trust for them to buy into what the work that you want to do. So that's a part of the Nightfall Festival. We've also currently got a kite club project taking place. So this is the 5th week. No, actually, it's not on today, so because it's half term. So it is. It has been 5 weeks. since it started, and it's about for the community. Pardon?
About making kites and flying them, I imagine.
Yes, but it's working with refugee and asylum seeker communities to get their stories. So it's about sharing stories about their experiences, their journey, their struggles, and sharing that in a group, but then also putting their key messages onto kites. And the kite is then, as a symbol of freedom, they create the kite as well. So then at the end of these workshops, we would then have so working with an artist, two artists called Claire and Beth, and they are taking place at is it Shahda?
It's Open Door Northeast.
Sorry, Open Door Northeast. It's one of the mornings. Apologies. So at the end of these workshops, what we're hoping to do is have like a day of flying and sharing of food, where anyone's welcome to come along to and kind of hear these stories being shared from people. We have also done a project in North Ormsby, which was like a graffiti project, and this was a really interesting project actually, because I'm not sure if you know about the Henry Street play area in North Ormsby. So it's a lot of work's been gone into it to kind of build it all up and make it an accessible space for the community to go to and make it a safe environment. I think there's a lot of security being put in, a new play area being put in, some gym equipment being put in. So it's really like kind of a community space. But there was these three kind of like white brick walls, and then they were just plain. So the kids, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were saying something.
No, me. No. I was
just
imagining brick wall. I can hear a child in the background. That's all right. Their contribution is much appreciated here at CVFM. We support the young as well as the older, as you were saying.
So the kids, the youth group who we were working with was Youth Focus Northeast. They identified that they wanted to do some graffiti work on there, but they didn't know where to start. So we got asked to come in and have a conversation with these kids and say, these young people, should I say, what do you want to see? So I had an initial kind of conversation with them saying, what kind of artists do you want to work with? What kind of work do you want to see? So we commissioned an artist to come in. We produced a brief, commissioned an artist to come in and do like a series of sessions with these young people to also, it's like an educational element as well. So talking about what is vandalism, what is actually graffiti, how to do it in the right way. And then the kids then actually practice kind of drawing their own artwork of what they wanted to be on the walls. But throughout this, there was a bit of negativity. So at first, even though they had the idea, it was really, really hard to kind of get people involved because of this negativity of, well, there's no point because it's going to get vandalized by the older kids. We're going to spend all the time and effort doing it, and how like the older ones are just going to come and just totally ruin it. So I had to kind of take that on board. But then what we said was we found this kind of anti-graffiti varnish that the artist was happy to use, which then protects the artwork. So if there is any graffiti, they can just be washed off. So when I went back to the group and told them that, it was like a whole new kind of, all right, okay, we'll get a little bit more involved now. So then they started producing their own artwork. We had a few sessions where the artist taught them the techniques of how to use spray paints at the session, and they absolutely loved that. They were like, oh, we've never done this before. So it was really good. And then they actually got to paint their own artwork at the park. So we had a session. But then following that, because their work was absolutely fantastic, we wanted to do an official unveiling. So we invited the families of the young people to kind of come and see the work in like what they've done, and kind of give them that sense of pride of place and ownership of that project. And it was a really, really, honestly, it was such a heartwarming experience, because again, when I was talking about trust, going into the first session, they were like, who are you? Like, we don't want anything to do with you. Like, we don't even want to get, like, even though they had the idea of wanting to be involved, it was just really hard to get it up and running. But thankfully we built that trust, and the project ended on a high note. It was really, really good.
I think what Naaila's kind of underselling here was her role in engaging with those young people. Because I still remember that first meeting that she had with those young people, and she came back and shared with the team. We all got quite emotional that, you know, when she shared that these young people had so little hope for the future, because they were kind of talking about how nothing good ever happens here. What is the point of us actually doing this? And then fast forward to the launch, which I was again privileged to go to and talk at. Seeing those young people, it was almost as if they were floating off the air.
Really?
I mean, the guy from BBC Tees kind of assumed, and when he spoke to the artist Stephen Irving, you know, oh, did you spray all this and was it their design? He goes, no, this is entirely the young people's work. They've done this entirely on their own. And it was so great to see them kind of so happy with what they had achieved. It was their idea. Our role was just to facilitate that happening. And it was because Naaila went back and kept talking to them and said, look, you know, I think the conversation went along the lines of, well, one day you're going to be the older young people.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if you create something, you can then help look after it. So sorry, I just wanted to interrupt.
All right. Naaila, if you've got any more thoughts to add to that, I mean, obviously, feel free.
I mean, there's a lot of work I can talk about, and honestly, we can go on and on, but I'll give you one particular project as well, which was a single story project. So I got invited to have a stall at an event in Grangetown Library, which was like an information stall about who we are, what we're about, and there was like a number of information stalls there. So my role there was to kind of speak to the community members who were attending this and kind of find out what they want to see happen in the community in terms of arts, culture and creativity and celebrating place and heritage. I had a really good conversation with a lot of residents. And one of the things they said to us, we've got this centre and we don't really have, we've got our key things that are happening. So we've got bingo, we've got coffee morning, but we want to do a few more things. So trying to kind of get them to think outside of the box of how we can be involved with that. And it was like, don't know. So then I gave them an example of a previous project that we did, which was called Sing a Story. So that was working with a citizen songwriter called Sam Slatcher, and he's absolutely amazing at what he does. So what I said was, how would you feel about sitting with Sam and speaking about the history and heritage of Grangetown and just sharing your experiences, sharing your childhood stories. And then what Sam will do is create that into a song piece, and then you guys can have that song piece. And at the very first session, they were like, we don't mind sitting and talking to him, but we are not singing. So I was like, right, okay, that's fine. You know, let's just get this started and let's see what happens. And Sam is so good at what he does. Like literally, he was like taking their stories of like their history about playing in the streets and going up Heston Hills and just, you know, like having jamsanis and being, you know, lots and lots of stories. And then he started like creating it into a song. And by the second session, when I went there, there was the older people themselves were singing the song and like actually singing it loud. And he had his guitar going and they were just like singing it along. And I was like, oh, I thought, don't say anything, Naaila, just like, because you'll put them off. So just stay quiet. So then when they, at the end of the session, I thought, this is so brilliant. Like I was like, so I said to Adam, who's he is the councillor, ward councillor, as well as runs the Grangetown Library. And I said, this is such an amazing piece of song. Do you think there's an opportunity to be able to share this with the younger generation? So have it as an intergenerational project where the younger ones are listening to what the older ones have got to say and kind of just sharing of stories. And he said, you know what, there's a school that have a choir very local. Maybe we can invite them to the next session and they can have like some kind of like a sharing experience. And I was like, I jumped on it. I was like, yes, let's do this. And the school were happy to come at such short notice. And then what Sam did was he left like a bridge of the song for the kids to write from the 2022 generation of Grangetown perspective. And it was just brilliant the way it just fitted together. They all sat there in a circle, they all sang together, all shared these stories together. And then honestly, the end of that third session, everyone singing together was just so, honestly, it was like really, really heartwarming to see. But then a few weeks afterwards, we got approached by Stephen Gerrard, who works for Redcar Council, and said, you know what, that's such a brilliant piece, because he was there at the last session. And he said, we've got links, we've tuned in. How do you feel about asking the group to come in to Tuned In and recording the song professionally? And obviously I was like all on it, but then I thought, let me check with the groups, and they were so happy to go along. So a few weeks afterwards, should I say, we arranged for the session to take place at Tuned In Station. So the group got to experience what it was like to work in a studio, working with the equipment, working with the professional mics, going behind the studio, looking at how the controls work. So it kind of like, it just spiraled and like, should I say, snowballed. And it was just an amazing experience. And this is something, because as Borderlands Creative People and Places, it's about leaving a legacy behind. And I feel like both of the projects, it is leaving a legacy behind, because this is an experience that people have never had before. And this is what we want to achieve. And honestly, the smiles and every time I go back to Grangetown Generations now, like, they know me. And again, it was about building trust with them. And they know me, and they're like, what's next? What have you got coming for us next? And then Adam was on about putting the writing on the wall. And the choir were actually singing that song for the Christmas festivities and further like kind of events that they have got going on. So it's just about like how it started with an idea, and then where it's ended up and where it could potentially go as well. So yeah, that's a bit about us.
Certainly is quite the bit about that, has to be said. I think this interview was supposed to be about half an hour in length, and we did actually start advanced. We're going to have a good solid 40 minutes, maybe even an hour. That is absolutely superb, Naaila. I actually started off by asking about what's coming up, but that is some very good information about what Borderlands has done, which I think I should probably have asked as a question. Any more info about what's coming up in the next couple of weeks, the next maybe month or so? Shahda, David, any input?
Sorry, I was going to say very quickly, one of the things that we really wanted to talk about today is the opportunity around Borderlands cultural collaborators. As Naaila has so eloquently shared, the difference between Creative People and Places and the kind of usual creative programs is it's a very people focused. So what we would like is to invite some of your listeners to get in touch. If they don't have to be creative, you don't have to be an artist, you just have to be somebody who cares about your community and be interested, because we want people to kind of work with us to help us design what kind of creativity looks like. For example, we want to set up a co-commissioning panel where local people are part of the process, which agrees which projects get funded, what we do, how we do it, and where we do it. We can share some information. There's links. I mean, David shortly will talk about all our social media. But it's really imperative that we have local people with us on this journey. Whilst our role is predominantly about communities, we are also working very, very closely with the broader creative sector across Tees Valley, not just in South Tees, as well as in the Northeast. Both Middlebrough and Redcar have what are called cultural partnerships, and those are multi-agency kind of meetings, gatherings of people who are interested in art and culture that includes individual artists, small cultural organizations, big ones like MEMA, the Town Hall, Festival of Thrift, the museums, and they are all really interested and at the moment talking about inclusion. And when we talk about inclusion, it's not just your usual ethnic minority communities or traveller communities, it's all our community. It could be a community in rural kind of East Cleveland who never have these opportunities. So we are really, really keen on connecting with people. I mean, Naaila talked about Nightfall. That is kind of ongoing workshops for the next few months. We also have a photography project that we started in the pandemic around Sheroes, where we asked people to nominate their women heroes of the kind of whole pandemic process. And that will be culminating in a big photography exhibition and celebratory event as part of International Women's Day next year. There's so many small things going on at the moment that, you know, there's also the whole kind of work that we've done around Black History Month, which again, we didn't want to organize yet again a one-off event gathering project. It was that huge opportunity to amplify the voices of our communities. So we just commissioned the wonderful Elvis, who some of your viewers will know really well, to go and film some of the great people working across South Tees. And you can find information about them on our social media.
A word in there from Naaila. I can see you sticking your hand up right there.
Yeah, just very quickly, Shahda's mentioned the cultural collaborators. If anybody is interested in wanting to take on that role as a volunteer, you could either message us on social media, which David will pick up, or you could email me at n.shabir@tees.ac.uk, and I can send you out like the information pack, which has like the application details on there.
And just very quickly on the cultural collaborators, what we'll like to do is sometime, I think, end of November, early December, just have a gathering, just have an opportunity to sit down with people, have a cup of tea and a piece of cake or coffee, if that's your poison. And there's no obligation at that point to engage, but it's just to kind of get a bit more information so we can plan better what 2023 looks like.
I think that's absolutely superb. And all of this does neatly segue into what's going to be my second last thing actually about all this, which is for any and all of our listeners who are interested in many past, present, and future alike, and who are keen to partake, how might they contact your organization? I think we should probably turn to David for this question, since you are the communications and digital media lead. Take it away, David.
All right. So if you want to reach out to us, find more information about events, about our projects, be it past, present, and any project that we'll be working on in the future, you can follow us on social media platforms. On Facebook, we are at Borderlands Arts and Culture, while on Instagram and Twitter at Borderlands_CPP. So Facebook, Borderlands Arts and Culture, while Instagram and Twitter is the same, Borderlands_CPP. So please engage with our content, comments, like and share, as it helps the algorithm. So please, we're looking forward to continue this conversation on social media with you.
Yeah, we also have a website, only a holding page at the moment, and it's borderlandscreatives.com.
Borderlandscreatives.com.
Yeah, I mean, we can share all this and then you can include it, but we're really eager on connecting with people across South Tees.
Absolutely. And we did get Naaila kindly shared her personal contact emails. Are there any for yourself, Shahda Khan, that you'd care to share?
s.khan@tees.ac.uk. My Khan is s.khan, and Naaila's is n.shabir, shabir. And so both of them are s.khan@tees.ac.uk. Naaila's is nshabir@tees.ac.uk.
And that just about rounds up the contact details. That has gone through all of the questions I prepared for this interview and much more. Any final thoughts for our listeners, Shahda Khan, Naaila, and David?
I think just something else I wanted to highlight is, whilst we are funded primarily by the Arts Council, we also have some support from Middlebrough Council, Redcar Council, and Tees Valley Combined Authority. Again, whilst we're fundamentally kind of connecting with communities, there is that role within the broader creative sector. And that sector, as I said, has recognised the lack of representation, and they are really keen on getting communities from across the board not only more involved in the creativity bit, as in terms of enjoying creativity, but also being part of the sector. There's lots of opportunities at MEMA and the university in terms of courses, but there's lots of other things going on where we want to not only, as I said, kind of celebrate and recognise our communities and their expertise, but potentially look at future training and meaningful work. So please do get in touch, because our role isn't just about facilitating the creativity. Our role is very much about brokering relationships with other key players. And we don't know everything, so we're more than happy for people to get in touch and say, you haven't thought about this.
About this, you haven't thought about that, you haven't thought about the other. Naaila, any final thoughts with the interview?
Shahda, can you quickly just update about the Whip It Up sessions starting on the 1st, please?
Something else we should have mentioned, we are working with a fantastic organization called Whip It Up, and they are running sessions every week from the 1st of November, which I think is a Wednesday, at the International Centre. And these, again, even though they're more broadly around the social prescribing model, anybody can pop in and have a go. And the team at Whip It Up, which are primarily Jane and Paul, are absolutely amazing and will put you at your ease. And there is no expectation that you are an expert or you're not. If you just walk through the door, just go in, have a cup of tea and have a chat.
That's absolutely wonderful. Any further shorts from Naaila or David? Any thoughts at all? Anything to add, David? Well, in which case, then I think that absolutely concludes this wonderful interview. Shahda Khan, David Oladokun, and Naaila Shabir, thank you so much for attending us today at CVFM Radio 104.5.
Thank you very much.
For inviting us. And we look forward to coming back again.
Absolutely. Anytime. Absolutely anytime. Anytime you want to invite me to an interesting play halfway across the country, I am game to travel with you in a small taxi van for 4.5 hours there and back. Stay tuned. Excellent music, interviews with people in the community here at CVFM 104.5.